would have got a chance to give her that book, Peace Above the Storm. I never would have got a chance to pray for her. I never would have got a chance to meet all the other people that I met in the neighborhoods in Memphis, Tennessee. And so I knew that God had blessed me so much. And so from there, I left that mountaintop experience of all the things that I got to do and all the ways he blessed me and used me to be a blessing to others. And now I had to get to studying. Now the MCAT is one of the toughest exams I've ever taken in my life, with the exception of step 1 and step 2, which I took in medical school. And so that summer, the last part of the summer that I spent studying for the MCAT was the most mentally challenging summer or mentally challenging experience I've had in my entire life. It was torturous. Every single moment the devil was putting thoughts into my mind that, you're not going to do well. You're not going to increase your score. You wasted so much time canvassing. You're not going to have enough time to go through all the materials that you can do well in this test. And because of that, you're not going to get into medical school. And so I had to think back on all the experiences I had canvassing and the prayer that I prayed to God in the very beginning, that if I commit my summer, he will bless me. And so I used that, I used those memories, and I went ahead and took the test. And not only did God allow me to do well on the MCAT, he also gave me the idea to use my canvassing experience in my personal statement in my application to medical school. And I talked about canvassing in all 6 of my interviews to medical school. And I got accepted into 5 schools because of that. And so God richly, richly blessed me. And he just reminded me, my theme verse for that summer was Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And when God says, when he writes those promises in his word, he absolutely means it. And I'm a testimony to that. All right, he did exactly what he promised in his word, and he allowed me to be blessed. And because of that, when he did that, he led me to Loma Linda, and I've had some of the best experiences of my life. I got a chance to go to Ethiopia and work in a mission hospital out there. I've gotten a chance to start mentorship programs at Loma Linda, as well as in my church back at home. I was going to do just so much just because of that summer I committed to God, and I trusted him. Now, some of you guys may be thinking that, well, that's great, but you're not from Guam. You don't understand what experiences are like here. So I'll let my roommate tell you a little bit about her experience here and see how God can still bless you, even if you're from Guam.
Hi, everybody. I guess Sabbath is pretty much over now, but happy Sabbath anyway. Some of you now know I had the privilege of living in Guam for about 7 years. Moved here when I was 8 years old from Nigeria, West Africa, with my parents, and my dad worked in the clinic. So I grew up behind the clinic, and at the time, Powell Church was actually in the clinic, so I have a lot of memories of running around the clinic, running behind the clinic, doing Pathfinder drills early on Sunday morning behind the clinic, and just so many. I could talk on and on about all the memories I have from when I lived here on Guam. It was a great experience, and it really contributed a lot to my life. When I moved out, I was pretty young. Before I moved to Guam, all I knew was Nigeria. When I moved to Guam, all I knew was Guam. And there were times when I was in Guam when I thought that Guam was the world, Guam was all there was in the world, I knew there was opportunity for me to be able to go to the mainland to study and, eventually go to college, but I couldn't really imagine myself in that position. Like, what would it be like? Would I fit in? Would I be able to adjust to this big place that I would eventually move to, coming from such a small island? Would I be able to make friends? What would it be like? And I know in elementary and middle school, they always ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? Start thinking about it, start planning for it. And all my life, I always wanted to do something in the healthcare field, obviously because my dad was a doctor, so that's pretty much all I knew my whole life. I wanted to do that. But I didn't know if I'll be able to achieve that. And it was really in Guam that I began to understand the importance of having a relationship with God, not just the kind of relationship where we pray before our meals or do a short devotion or prayer in the morning and in the evenings and, do our duties at church, but the kind of relationship where you know that he cares about every aspect of your life. And I'm talking about from the most complicated to the most simple things, where I can go to him and be like, Lord, I want to be a doctor or something in the healthcare field one day, but I'm really bad at math, and I really need to pass this math class. I know it's 5th grade math, which doesn't seem that complicated, but I'm not doing that well in it. I know that he actually cares about my 5th grade math test, And that lesson really stayed with me throughout my whole academic career as I went on from Guam and eventually moved to California, and I went to college in Alabama. That lesson really stayed with me. Although sometimes I forgot. When I first started college in Alabama, I was pre-med at the time, and I was taking these science classes. And at this time, I was pretty much dedicated to hopefully going to medical school and becoming a physician. And I was starting my classes. I was like, God called me to this, so I'm gonna ace all my classes and become a doctor. Let's go. So I started my, this is like I think we only took one science class that first year, biology, general biology. And my grades were, those were some of the saddest grades I'd ever seen in my entire life. And at this point, I was like, well, this isn't really starting out too well. Maybe God didn't call me to be a doctor, or I wasn't sure what was going on. And one of my friends that I met there told me, he was like, why don't you try putting God first, like actually spending more time with him and let him and see what he does in your life. And I was like, that's crazy. What I need to do is to be studying more. I need to study every moment of every day. Yeah, I can pray to God in the morning, but as soon as I'm done, I need to be studying. So I was really tempted to cheat on my devotion, my prayer time, and all these extra prayer meetings on Wednesday, all those things. I don't have time. I need to be studying, or in class, or sleeping. That's all I have time for. Or and occasionally eating. But I was, my grades they really were not looking that good. So I was like, what can it hurt me to spend more time with God? I'm already not doing that well. I can either do worse, I can do better. So let me give it a shot. So I tried to just really focus more on my relationship with God. When I actually prayed with him in the morning, not just like a passing, Lord help me have a good day, but actually spend time with him, talk to him, pour out all my concerns. And throughout the day, really work on having that walking, talking relationship with God. And I was surprised, I wasn't studying more for sure, but my grades were looking better than anything I'd seen the whole year. And from that moment on till all through college and medical school, that stayed with me, that when you truly put God first, he'll bless you. When God has called us to do something, whatever it might be it medical school, whatever he's called us to do, when he's called us to do it, he's going to equip us to do it. No obstacle is going to keep us from being able to do that thing. But we really have to learn to put him first and trust him to enable us to do it.
So, as you can see, as God was with me in my canvassing experience and providing a way for me to have the opportunity to go and witness to people and share his good news and to promote health message and family values in neighborhoods. And he blessed me to allow me to do well in my MCAT and get accepted into medical school and lead me to Loma Linda and then lead me to everywhere else. That's the same thing he wants to do for you. The same way he was with Bimi from Nigeria, then to Guam, and then to Alabama and California, and just leading her in her life, reminding her to continue to put him first in all her studies, and he will bless her because of that. That is the same thing he wants to do for you. And it just reminds me of a verse in Proverbs 3:5 where God says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he shall direct your paths. If you continue to keep that in mind and trust God and continue to put him first, then he will continue to lead you in the right directions and allow you to do well in all your studies, to be prosperous in everything you put your hand to.
She said we really have to let God direct our paths. I think many times we limit ourselves. We think that we're not capable of doing all these things. And in limiting ourselves, we're actually limiting what God can do in and through us. God has so many amazing things that he wants to do through us, but our own doubts, our own fears keep him from doing those things in us. And we really have to let him come in and take full control and completely take over and work in through us. Ephesians 3:20, correct? Yes. Ephesians 3:20 says, "Now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can think or imagine." God has so many wonderful things he wants to do. I just want to encourage from our young people to our older people, everybody, don't let your fears or your doubts or your idea of your abilities keep you from letting God do amazing, unimaginable things in and through you and on this island.
Praise the Lord. Amen.
We just want to close out since the time is already spent.
have a special prayer by Brother Ricky